Welcome to the Grow Your Business for Good show. This is a place where coaches and consultants gather so you can learn how to lead a world-class business that does not tax your time, your energy, or your financial resources. We are your hosts, M. Shannon Hernandez
and Amy Hager of the Joyful Business Revolution. And our number one goal is to bring you clarity and insight on how to grow your business for good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode in our brand messaging series. I have been so excited to introduce you to my friend, collaborator, co-worker, Beth Nydick. I am speaking with her today about how to make $10,000 from your next podcast interview. She is the go-to person I go to for all things how to turn my media into money. Beth is the founder of the Fame Lab, and she really does help coaches, experts, and authors amplify their brand presence and really get what's working in the brand messaging like on turbo drive. And so I thought she'd be a fantastic guest to have towards the end of this episode. So Beth, welcome.
I'm so happy to hang out with you. You know, we always have such a good time.
Yes, we do. I always like to start this show by saying, what is joyful in your world today? And today I'm going to catch it on the recording.
You know what? I get to work from my backyard. And if you're watching the video, this is my actual backyard. It's full of hydrangeas and I have a Japanese maple. So just getting to be out in nature versus what normally happens is I sit in my office and stare at nature instead of getting to actually breathe it in.
Well, now that we have like temperatures that are in the 70s, it's so nice to sit outside now on the East Coast.
Yeah, for a little, until it gets too cold. But it's definitely a piece of my joy. And I got to spend time the other night with my two kids who are in college. They were home. So just getting to be out here, looking up at the stars and getting to see, what's out here. I always say to my friends, I live in like Wild Kingdom because I'm in the forest. So we have deer and foxes and of course squirrels and that kind of stuff, the occasional bear. So it's just, fun to be out here.
Yeah, I love that. So Beth, will you kind of just give us a little bit of context of how did you go from all these amazing things? Like you've been on the Drew Barrymore show, the Sherry Shepherd show, ABC, NBC, Fox, the Tonight Show, and you've been featured in Oprah and Parade and Forbes and Business Insider, and you even have a cookbook. Y'all, it's called Clean Cocktails, Righteous Recipes for the Modern Mixologist. But how did you do all of that? And now here you are helping people like me and my colleagues make bank from our podcast interviews. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
I love TV. I've always loved TV. I came home after school to watch General Hospital. I wanted to be a TV producer. I wanted to be in the media. I wanted to be like a mover and shaker. I wanted to make things happen. When I was little, it was in front of the camera. Now it's both behind and in front of the camera. But coming up after my kids went to school, I was like, okay, I didn't want to get a job at a doctor's office. A lot of us become realtors or whatever it is, because I was not going back to 16-hour days of TV production. I needed to do something else with my expertise. And I just started helping people in the food sector. I was teaching women that didn't know how to cook, how to make roast chicken and sauteed broccoli. I'm not kidding. And I dived headfirst in 2007 into digital entrepreneurship because Shannon, you know me, but when I was 10, my dad bought me a Radio Shack computer. And I was on message boards back in the day before there was the real internet. So I've always been a tech person. So understanding that you can use what's in your head to create a business, I created a food business. And as I started getting into it and I started being on TV and my friends started asking me if they could how I can get them on TV, I really changed the trajectory of my whole life, my whole business to really focus on publicity and visibility. And when looking at the landscape of what it was, I had a PR firm and I placed people on all the top media and Business Insider and Forbes and TV and all this stuff. But what I kept seeing or kept hearing was, well, this media is great, but now what? Or I want to cancel my my contract with you because I'm not feeling the ROI. And that's when I really was like, okay, what is missing in this landscape and what is not happening? Oh, no one is talking about how to actually make money from visibility, from podcasts, from TV, from the stage, from a TEDx talk, whatever it is that you're doing. Right now I'm focusing on podcasts, but it's great to be on podcasts. But what are you doing with the podcast, on the podcast, before and after the podcast that's actually going to connect to your audience so that they will get into your email funnels and buy your products? So it was really turning out to be like all of my passions coming together and then me seeing a hole that I could fill in the market.
I love that. And I will say, like, we can run the rat race of doing all the things and seeing no return on it.
Oh, all the
And
time.
it's why we need people like you to understand how the hell to do it, but also just because, my audience is used to me speaking the truth. Y'all need to focus, pick an avenue and get really good at it. And that's what we're going to talk about today is this avenue of media or podcast. I do want to say this. I didn't tell Beth I was going to say this, but I am going to say this. Beth has a program called the Fame Lab. And it is, she's getting ready to do some marketing around it and have some lead gen experiences. And really the promise of this program is how to make 10K every time you step up to the mic. So if you are interested in hearing more about that, you can connect with Beth. I'll have her information on the show notes. But I know like the countdown's kind of on and she's
Yep.
getting ready, and it's been really fun to watch you like get jived up and ready to offer this next iteration. So I'm excited about that.
I appreciate that. I think that people look at media and look at fame and look at all this stuff and visibility, and it's very outside their business versus bringing it inside their business. And like you said about the Fame Lab, that's one of the things we do is we're really holistically looking at your business to see what holes there are and how we can fill them and how you're showing up in the media. Because I talk about fame in four initials. I forget what it's called. Monikers, right? Fame. It's fearless mindset. A is authority positioning. M is media mastery. And E is expert monetization. And you have to have all four of these to be able to really use your opportunities. And that's what being on this podcast, and thank you for that Fame Lab shout out. And that's right. That's one of the things that we do in the Fame Lab is learn how to do that. Is to really be able to use what you have in a way that's going to connect to your audience to get them to come find you. Because a lot of people approach, like if I approach this interview as I'm going to give Shannon a great interview, that's great, but that shouldn't be the whole strategy. Most of the strategy, which you've helped me with already, is allowing people who are listening to know who I am, what I do, what I offer, and that they're the right person within the first 5 minutes of the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just pause for 1 minute. I want you to walk us through a real world case where a brand has transformed, or a person, right? If you don't consider yourself a brand, your business or brand has transformed a single podcast appearance into significant revenue. Can you walk us through what that looks like when we work with you? Like, what are the steps that we are doing?
Well, I have a perfect example. My client, Michelle, she came to me not really knowing what to say when someone said, "What do you do?" And she started with the "I help." And I was like, please, no one cares, right? No one cares about your help statement. Yep. So we really gave her her media messaging. What does she need to say out in the media, out on podcast, and her social and her emails and everything else that goes along with her business, but especially podcasting. What she says on the podcast so people understand instinctually what she does and that it's for them. Mm-hmm. And when you actually say something different, right? She could come on and talk about inflammation, or she can come on and talk about mindset. But if she tells you a story or about how she got into trouble because her mindset was different, or how she didn't get somewhere because she had inflammation and she couldn't go because she couldn't drive, like whatever that story is, she started telling personal stories that connected back to her why, but also did not stop there. They connected back to her offers. And talking to not just the pain points, but the pain points everyone talks about. It's that resonant points. What am I going to say right now here on the podcast that's going to get you to open up my Instagram, go to my link in bio, and like me, right? Like my account, and then allow me to have your email address and download my opt-in. So we really worked on what her we call origin script in the Fame Lab, what that looked like, her milestone script, what really was a change in her life, and then her offer script, talking about your offers without talking about your offers. So I worked with her first and second quarter of this year. By second quarter of this year, she had returned about $25,000 in downloads and one-on-one coaching that all we could run back right to the opt-in, right to the opt-in. That was especially for a larger podcast that she was on.
Yeah.
But I've seen it in smaller ways too. I have a client who's in the stress area. She's got 3 TED Talks. Because of the work we've done together, her TED Talks are now some of the most downloaded TED Talks.
Yeah.
Because we institute what the Fame formula is. We institute a system of promotion, a promotion strategy, a media strategy, and a you strategy, who you actually are and what you're actually going to say about you that comes to a place where people can understand it and really move on it. Because Shannon, to be completely honest, I spent probably 2021 and 2022 without people understanding who I was because I wasn't being vulnerable enough. I wasn't sharing enough about the dark side. Because you know me, I'm a very glass half full. And it's very hard for me to kind of focus on the things that aren't working because that doesn't help me. But when I changed to have those real conversations, or, I have an email coming out this week about how I lost a client when I had a hysterectomy because I didn't continue to have my boundaries. And I actually put that email in a couple groups last week and I got so many messages. And guess what I do with so many messages? I create the opportunity to have the media question. And now I have a couple sales calls.
Yeah.
From doing that.
Yeah. So here's what I want to say. In a previous episode of this season, we really dove into the art of authentic storytelling. And people will know whether it's just kind of shallow for show, I'm going to just tell a little, or they'll know if like you're really going to share what's going on right behind the scenes. So I applaud you for doing that. And I agree with you that, most of our clients, it doesn't matter what we're coaching or teaching on. They all want a problem solved or a different kind of opportunity. And if we're only the unicorns and rainbows all the time, they can't relate to us, right? Because they're like, oh, Shannon and Beth have it all figured out. But as soon as we start saying like, you're reminding me, like, I literally Voxered my team today. And I was like, I know I have 7 days to get this stuff done before I go off the grid for 19 days. I know it's going to get done, but I am feeling anxious about this today. And they all came back and said, what can we do to help you? We've got it covered. Tell us what you need, right? In the past, I would have never said that to my team. Like I would have just been plowing through. So I think it's important that we share these pieces of ourselves because it is what makes us human.
100%. But I want to warn you, and what most people do is when they go on a podcast, they just tell stories. And that's why I said the origin script, the milestone script, because when you speak on a podcast, you need to speak in sound bites and not, what's the right word? Not at length. I'll be nice. Not at length, not at super detail. And if you listen to the story I just told, there wasn't a lot of detail, right? There was milestones in there. And I do that on purpose because I want your audience to think about this too. If they're on a podcast and they'll say, I'm on your podcast, you're going to send me assets. You might even send me audio assets. How am I going to create audio assets for you before I even get there? Meaning I'm going to use sound bites. So when you create the audio assets, they're easy and they're actually what I want our audience to hear on social media.
Yeah.
Everything has to flow through everything. I'm going to give your audience another example. I was working with a client earlier about their lead magnet, and I said, we need a cover for this lead magnet. And she said, why? And my answer was because when it's in their downloads or it's in their Google Drive and they're looking at the JPEGs or the pictures that are in there, I want them to see yours, not just a lead magnet that's a checklist or a lead magnet that has something on it. And it's the same way when you're thinking about telling stories. It's got to be the top line story, but it needs to be short enough for me to understand who you are, what you're about, and that I am your person because you can solve my problem.
Yeah, Absolutely. So let's talk about this because I know you have and you teach a top day after strategy for maximizing the impact of your media appearance once that mic goes off, right? So we've done whatever we've done, the mic is off, we wake up the next day. What is that? What is your secret sauce there?
Well, it actually starts beforehand. And to be completely honest, I didn't get to do it yet today, but we will do it. I'll do it after. And we'll do it when we stop recording. It's really about sharing with your audience the journey you're taking. So the video that you and I will do shortly when we're done recording, we'll be like, hey, I'm on the podcast with Shannon. Hey, with my phone. Hey, here's Shannon. And then I'll probably do a live video just myself. I am so excited. I just reported the podcast. And then tomorrow, an email, a social media post, a DM to prospective clients. I was thinking about you. I was on this podcast yesterday. I talked about XYZ. It's sharing the journey that you're on while promoting the things that you're on. Yeah. I'm going to an event tonight. I'm going to be doing video about what I'm going to wear, about getting in the car. I'm going to do a reel the whole time. But I was on a podcast the other day, and I was talking about this. Sorry, I was teaching on Friday. I was talking about this, and there's a light, a medium, and heavy promotion strategy. What I just described is the heavy promotion strategy. Because the response that I get back is like, well, that's a lot. I can't do all of that. If you could do two of the things I said, you could take a picture while you're you could do pictures as well with video over it, but it's just about sharing what you're doing as you're doing. That's the promotional strategy. And then also what you're sharing and how that connects back to your offers.
Yep.
I think there's a delineation between I'm on something and what I'm offering. Or, what blows my mind is when they wait till the last 5 seconds of the interview to talk about what their things are.
Well, this is the same thing, Beth, that I feel like when people tell me I'm scared to make offers in an email. And I'm like, they said they want to hear from you.
Right. They signed up for
you.
Tell
a story every week and make an offer in the same email. It's okay.
100%. I have, when I get, there's certain people who do that, I've worked with you and copywriter friends of mine, and they're so good that way. They tell a story. I try to emulate that, but it's what's your comfort level? Like, what are you actually going to do? One of the things that a lot of my clients start out with is the morning of something, they just put a picture of them working and then they list tagging everybody along the way of what they're doing. But it's really about creating that promotional strategy, that light, medium, heavy, whatever works for you, that you consistently are doing. Because the worst, say you were on 5 podcasts this year, I want it to look like you're on 50 podcasts. So if you're continually sharing what you're doing and then resharing your podcast from last month or 2 months ago or 3 months ago, as long as the message that you're saying on those platforms still connects to what you're doing, that is content that you don't need to reuse. You just need to repurpose and to reshare. Because, and the focus of that is about the content. Not that I'm on Shannon's podcast. It's that we talked about what my email will be about this was that we talked about the 10K. We talked about what I'm doing, but Shannon helped me so much. She mentioned my program. She talked about how it's a turbo boost. I didn't even have to do any of the heavy lifting because she's such a great host that she already did that for me. So if you're a podcaster and reading this email right now, you should start doing the same for your clients.
Oh my God. Yes, please. Because as Beth, we're just going to keep it real, y'all. All right. I know how to prep for my guests showing up because I'm a marketing expert.
Yes.
And my job is to make the listeners think, to emulate the person coming on, to share our journey. So many podcasts I'm on, it is like shit.
It's like, oh, we'll just have a conversation. A client of mine that's in the Fame Lab right now, she goes, I got an email. I sent her her questions because in the Fame Lab, we come up with what your questions are. She sent them to her. And then she wrote back, I don't need these. I just want to have a conversation. And I said to my client, don't you dare do that. Yeah. Like, that's not going to be helpful. Why waste your time? I said, send her back an email. Can we have a conversation about this? Because I don't want to waste your time or my time. And I want us both to make money out of this.
Absolutely. And so here's what you'll also learn, if you choose to work with Beth in the Fame Lab, it's like, okay, what if you are on a podcast, they never do your question? You need to know how to weave this stuff in naturally. Exactly. a story in your offer, a story in your download, a story in a client story. Like this matters, connecting all of this. Otherwise, you should just go to the moth stage and tell stories for the rest of your life and not plan on getting paid for them.
No. That's one I would like to do that one day, to be completely honest.
Me too. And
I
Beth,
would like to
there's
do that.
they have all kinds of moth events around us. So I'd
I
love to
know. We
go
should go.
together with you.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with moth. I love it. I love their storytelling. I love their podcast. I love their production. But most of the people listening to the show want to make money from where they're showing up, which is why we're doing this today.
Yep.
Right? Okay. I know there's some myths about media. I have some of these. I'm actually going to share some of these with you because I thought it'd be fun for you to get into my brain and hear my myths that are holding people like me back. How do we overcome it? All right. So the very first thing I want to say is when you said just a minute ago about the heavy promotion, I was so glad you came back and said light promotion because I really have, I'm like trying to get off of social media more and more. Not off of it, but I don't want to be the entrepreneur who is taking the picture of the outfit, getting ready, saying I'm doing this. Like, I just want to show up to my damn computer and do my job and then go create art or go to Spain for 19 days.
Yes.
Whatever's happening, right?
Amazing.
So we addressed that one. So thank you for bringing that back to there's variants here that go with your comfort level. Okay. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'd love to hear your take on this.
Yeah.
The word influencer has pretty much ruined me in terms of how much I actually want to be seen on media.
Okay.
Influencer marketing, influencer this, influencer that. So what can you do to help me like, and it probably goes back to what I just said. I want to spend less time on social media. Influencers are spending all their time on social media. So it's like, how do I overcome this in terms of getting more media, but not becoming an influencer or have to be in the spotlight all the time?
Well, I have bad news for you. You're an influencer.
Oh God.
You are. And you're
well, I'm doing it my own way.
You're doing it exactly. You're doing it. It's light versus heavy.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And you want to be an influencer. And I want to take this as well. What the media thinks an influencer is probably not what you and I and the listeners think about as an influencer. Right?
Okay.
When the media is looking at an influencer, they're thinking, how are they bringing their audience to my audience? Sorry, to my show. Because what the media actually wants is more eyeballs and more listeners onto what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really about, and it's about your story, who you are, and who you're bringing to the table. Mm-hmm. So like a national, like Good Morning America this morning had one of the girls who's a gymnast at LSU, and now she can get paid for her likeness. She's an influencer, right? She's got 1 million followers, whatever it is. But you and I, who have less than 10,000 followers on Instagram, are also influencers because we're going to come with a story. We're going to come with a point of view, and we do come with an audience, so we can be a micro influencer. So being an influencer doesn't mean you need to dance on TikTok. An influencer means you have to have something to say, you actually care, and you have an audience that listens. That's being an influencer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have something to say. Yes. I have an audience that cares. Yes. And what's the other thing?
You can show up and do it. That's the other thing.
Okay. And so what I love is quote unquote being an influencer in people's inboxes.
Yeah, that's fine. And that's it. And then I also, this is the way I think about it, is when you are an influencer in your email inbox, you are getting more eyeballs than anything you're probably doing on social media anyway.
Absolutely. This is why I'm so in love with it.
And then you can target and tag those people, right? There's a whole email strategy that goes along with the email promotion of how the people who are paying attention to when you're sharing your media and how that you can actually just talk to them to get them into whatever those offers are. Everything goes back to the offer. And like you said earlier, like you have somebody who didn't want to make an offer. If that's the issue, right? Then how or what do you want to be seen as, right? And how do you want to be connected with? And how does the offer fit into that rather than I'm trying to make a sale?
Yeah. Well, can I just be honest? I only want to work with people who also want to say, I want to tell stories and make offers.
Oh, I only want people who want to be on camera. So
Okay.
sorry, baby. No, I'm just joking.
So we've all got our lines in the sand, y'all.
Yeah, no, honestly, like if you don't want to be on camera, I'm not your person. There's other people out there who will work with you and will help you get onto camera. But where my program starts, you already want to be on camera. You already have a social media. You already have an offer. I start from there, and then I can help you move on. I've helped plenty of people who don't want to be on camera. It's just not in the program.
Okay, well, I do have a question for you. On your sales page, do you say who this is for? You are comfortable showing up on camera?
I do have that question. I'm going to go back and look and make sure.
Okay, because I think it
head.
needs to be there because your program is very amazing. Like you're going to just talk about podcasts, and a lot of podcasts are video now. So we don't want to call in people who are like, oh, good, I can just turn off the camera and just sit with my mic, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I had a sales call like that once and she wouldn't get on camera. And I said, why? She's, well, I don't like to be on camera. I said, well, then I'm not your person because
Yeah.
I want to be on national TV tomorrow. Right? Like
Yeah.
that's, you don't need to want that, but just to want to be on. But I want to go back to one more thing that you said about the myths, because a lot of people think that you need to have a huge business to be in the media or that you need to go viral to be in the media. And just like I've said, I think 6 or 7 times already, all you need is a story and something to say. As long as you have something to say that an audience that's not yours, that's the podcast's audience, is something they need to hear, which, by the way, on the DL, that's also going to be in your pitch. They need to hear from you about X topic because that's one of the solutions to one of their problems. That's all you need is to be a solution and have something to say about it. You don't need to dance. You don't need to wear no clothes. You don't need to do all the influencer stuff or sell something or whatever. It's just about having something to say and then something to sell to back it up.
I love it. We're busting myths today, y'all. We're busting myths with Beth. Hey, that could be a show, Busting Myths with Beth.
I actually did a YouTube show with Esatino Media, and that's exactly what we did. Is we went all over the myths. Maybe you can link her, check her out on YouTube. But we did. We went all through these myths that people just kind of make up because being in digital media and being in the podcast world or the media world is different, and things are looked at differently.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with somebody. They're like, "Well, I did that podcast 3 months ago. I can't share it." I was like, "What world do you live in?"
Yeah. Well, it's a good reminder for all of us. Like we're redoing right now the media page because after 13 years, y'all, I have so many freaking podcasts. Like we're just making some decisions and cleaning it up. But as soon as that's done, I'm like, oh, I'll have fresh eyes and I can start go promote some of these podcasts again and put them back into my marketing plan or into my email, right?
That's
Yeah.
part of the promotion strategy, right? How often are you sharing?
Yeah.
I've not been in Oprah 12 times, but I've shared that Oprah thing a lot more than 12 times.
Absolutely. So, Beth, you have a free gift for our audience today, which I'm super excited about. So tell us a little bit about your download.
Well, we've been talking about it all day. It's how to make 10K for your next podcast interview. What I did is I created a checklist for you. And the things that I talked about, what to do before, during, and after. And like the checklist itself, light, medium, and heavy. Pick 2 to 3 things on each platform and do them. And then when you do them, tag Shannon and I so that we can share them and we can celebrate in you and actually moving forward and you also making 10K for your next podcast interview.
I love it. Beth, thank you so much for being with me today on the show.
I love being with you.
Oh my God, I love being with you too. And I get to hug you Thursday night.
I know, we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. All right, everyone. So that's a wrap. You're going to tune in next week for the last episode of the season. It's an interview with Alan Cohen, my dear friend, about picking the perfect TED topic and who should do a TED talk and who should not. You aren't going to want to miss it. See you soon. Adios.